In a small, dusty village in southeastern Nigeria, life ran in predictable circles. Narrow red earth paths linked clusters of aging houses, their tin roofs battered by many seasons. In the middle of this village, barely noticed by most, lived Angela Nena. She was 23, tall and slim, with gentle brown skin and watchful, serious eyes. Angela had grown up here, in the cramped, peeling walls of her late father's family compound. But in truth, she had always lived as an outsider, someone people talked about but never truly saw. When Angela was just 7, tragedy changed her life forever. In one terrible week, her father and mother both died. Her father in a road accident, her mother from a sudden fever that medicine could not cure. With no siblings, Angela was left with her grandmother, Mama Obi. In the days after the funerals, the family's world shrank. Worse still, before the first month passed, Angela's father's brothers and distant relatives came to the compound claiming all the family's farmland for themselves. No one stood up for Mama Obi and her little granddaughter. In their absence, the uncles took every piece of fertile land, every cocoa grove and cassava plot, leaving just the rundown house and the tiny backyard garden for Angela and her grandmother. Angela remembered that loss as a burning ache. She often woke at night to her grandmother's quiet tears. Tears not just for her son and daughter-in-law, but for the home, land and security that vanished so quickly. Since then, Angela had become caretaker, nurse and breadwinner. Mama Obi grew frail and bedbound. Each morning, Angela swept the compound, fetched water from the well, boiled yam or pap for breakfast, and tried to keep her grandmother comfortable. When food ran out, she worked odd jobs, helping at the market, scrubbing pots for neighbors, or carrying headpans of sand for bricklayers. Most days, she earned only enough for a handful of gari or some bitter leaf for soup. The money always ran out long before the next market day, and Mama Obi's medicine sometimes had to wait. All around them, the village people watched and whispered. Some pitied Angela, but many just shook their heads. See her? Orphan no luck, cursed since her parents died. Some even called her bad luck, blaming her for misfortunes in the compound or village. No young man looked twice at her, and even the old women gossiped about the girl with nothing left. The shame weighed heavy, making Angela smaller with each passing day. Only one person stood by her, Caroline Kioma. Caroline was a bright spirit, a little older than Angela, but marked by her own tragedies. Her parents had also died when she was small. She had been raised by her mother's younger sister, Auntie Ozioma, a tough woman who believed the only way out of poverty was to work hard in the city. Caroline had spent time in Lagos as a housemaid, sent there by her aunt to earn money for their family. But when her aunt remarried, she called Caroline back to the village, leaving her future uncertain again. Angela and Caroline's friendship had been born out of shared loss. They would meet beneath the mango tree after chores were done, talking quietly about their dreams and their fears. Angela often wondered aloud, "Caroline, do you ever think about leaving this place for good?" Sometimes Caroline answered with laughter, sometimes with a faraway look. One hot afternoon, as the sun lowered and the air thickened with dust, Angela finally spoke her secret aloud. "Caroline, I want to go to Lagos. I want to try. But what about Mama Obi? Who will take care of her if I leave?" Her voice trembled with worry. Caroline hesitated. "I was meant to go back to Lagos, you know. My aunt wants me to find work as a house girl again, but I've seen enough of that city for now. Maybe you should go instead. You're smarter than all of us here. I'll stay. I'll care for Mama Obi. I promise." Angela shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "You can't. You have your own life. What if your aunt calls you again? What if you change your mind?" Caroline stood, her face serious. "Come with me." She led Angela through the tall grass to the edge of the compound, where a small grave lay beneath a pawpaw tree, her mother's. With the setting sun casting long shadows, Caroline knelt beside the grave. "I swear by my mother's memory, I will take care of Mama Obi as if she were my own grandmother. You must go, Angela. If you stay, nothing will change. You were meant for more than this village." The words sank deep into Angela's heart. Later that evening, Caroline and Angela sat with Mama Obi in the smoky kitchen. They told her about the plan. The old woman looked at them both, tears shining in her tired eyes. "Angela, my child," Mama Obi said, "I want you to have a future. Go and fight for it. Don't be afraid. I will pray for you every day." That night, the three women held hands, their hearts heavy but full of hope. They became a small circle of courage, standing together against the world's coldness. But even courage cannot buy a bus ticket to Lagos. For 8 long months, Angela had scraped and saved every spare coin she could find, each day feeling like an eternity as she watched Mama Obi grow weaker. Whenever someone paid her for work, sweeping a yard, pounding yam, washing clothes, she kept a little back, folding the small notes into an old tin hidden under her mattress. Caroline sometimes slipped a few naira into the tin, whispering, "Add this to your dream fund." It was never much, but over time, the money grew. Angela also sold the last thing of value her father had left, a set of battered carpenter's tools. It broke her heart to let them go, but it meant enough for the bus fare and a few extra meals. When the time came, Caroline and Mama Obi helped Angela plan her journey. "You can take the big bus from Umuna Junction," Caroline explained. "Ask for the night bus to Lagos. When you get there, go straight to Oyingbo Market. My cousin Ada sells tomatoes there. She'll let you sleep in her back room until you find something better. Tell her I sent you, and keep your money hidden. Don't trust anyone." Mama Obi gave Angela a small cloth bag with a few boiled yams, dried crayfish, and a bottle of water for the road. "Don't eat everything at once," she warned gently. Angela memorized every instruction, wrote Ada's address on a scrap of paper, and tucked it inside her shoe. The night before her departure, Angela hardly slept. She lay beside Mama Obi, listening to her grandmother's soft breathing. Her mind raced with worry. What if she failed? What if the city swallowed her whole? What if she never saw her grandmother or Caroline again? At dawn, she got up quietly, washed, and packed her bag. 1 dress, 2 wrappers, her tin of money, the address, and her dreams. Angela knelt beside Mama Obi's mat, holding her thin, trembling hand. "I will come back for you," she whispered. "I promise. I will make you proud." Mama Obi smiled and traced a blessing on Angela's forehead. "May God go with you, my daughter. Don't forget home." Her words carried the weight of a whole lifetime of loss and love. Caroline met her at the edge of the village as the bus rumbled in, its driver shouting destinations over the roar of the engine. The two friends hugged for a long time, both fighting tears. "Write me," Caroline whispered. "Call me if you ever need help," Angela promised, knowing she might not be able to keep it. Then came the hardest goodbye of all. Angela climbed onto the battered bus, her bag held tight to her chest. She watched through the window as her grandmother and best friend faded into the dust. The road to Lagos felt impossibly long, but her hope was stronger than her fear. The journey to the city was harsh. Many hours later, the bright, noisy chaos of Lagos swallowed her whole. She stepped off, clutching Ada's address, her savings hidden in her skirt. People rushed past, shouting, laughing, barely noticing the village girl who had just arrived with nothing but a battered bag and a trembling heart. Angela's first hours in Lagos were a blur of fear and confusion. She asked for directions, was mocked for her accent, and nearly lost her bag to a street boy. But she kept moving, remembering every word Caroline had said. When she finally found Ada's tomato stall, Ada looked at her with surprise, then recognition. "So you are Caroline's friend," she said, letting Angela sleep in a storeroom behind the stall, promising to help her find a job if she could. The city was not kind. Angela struggled to adjust to the noise, the smells, the crowded streets. People laughed at her village English, and even Ada's kindness could not shield her from daily humiliation. She searched for work every day, her savings shrinking. Sometimes she went to bed hungry, but she never forgot her promise to send money home. Angela called home when she could, sometimes borrowing Ada's phone. She spoke to Caroline and Mama Obi, trying to sound strong, even as tears threatened. "Don't worry about me," she would say. "I'm okay. I will send something soon." In truth, her heart ached with loneliness and worry. Still, every day, Angela woke with the same stubborn hope. She was determined not to fail, not for herself, not for her grandmother, not for Caroline. She would endure whatever the city threw at her because she had to. Angela had already lost everything once. She would not lose her future too. But Lagos had a way of testing hope. Angela was about to discover just how much one heart could bear and just how much pain and love can shape a life. The first few days in Lagos passed in a blur for Angela. The noise, the press of bodies, and the strange city air left her feeling small and lost. Every sound was unfamiliar. The early morning shouts of bus conductors, the distant rumble of traffic, the sharp calls of market women. Angela's body felt heavy with exhaustion, but her mind spun with worry and hope. Each night she lay on a thin mat in Ada's storeroom, thinking about Mama Obi's gentle voice and the memory of her mother's soft lullabies. She promised herself over and over, "I will not let this city defeat me." Angela's first attempts to find work were painful. In the city, her village English made her a target for mockery. At every compound gate or kiosk where she inquired about cleaning jobs, she was met with raised brows or barely concealed laughter. Sometimes people told her outright, "We don't need anyone here, try the next street." Once a market woman sneered, "Go back to your village. Lagos is not for people like you." Angela swallowed her pride, bowed her head, and kept moving, determined not to go home in defeat. Angela's resolve was soon tested even more. The few jobs she found, washing dishes at a buka, carrying cement at a building site, helping women sweep compounds, paid poorly and rarely lasted long. One day, a gatekeeper promised her work as a cleaner in a big man's house. But when she arrived, she found herself turned away for looking too tired, too poor. Angela felt the sting of shame, but kept her spirit alive by remembering the reason she had come. Mama Obi and Caroline, waiting back home, counting on her. Her evenings became times of reflection. Sometimes after a long, fruitless day, Angela would sit alone on the stoop behind Ada's stall and talk quietly to herself, remembering the conversations with Caroline under the mango tree. She thought often about the promise Caroline had made at her mother's grave, to take care of Mama Obi as her own. "I can't let them down," she whispered to the darkening sky. "If I suffer here, it is for their sake." One night, the city's loneliness pressed down on Angela. In the shadows of Ada's shop, she let herself cry for the first time since leaving the village. Her chest ached with missing home, with fear that she would never find her place in this world of concrete and noise. But the next morning, she wiped her eyes and got up before sunrise, determined to keep fighting. Days stretched into weeks, and the burden of disappointment grew heavier. Angela sent home whatever coins she could save, sometimes skipping meals to make sure Mama Obi could buy her medicine. In her letters and calls, she hid her suffering, speaking only of hope and small victories. After 4 grueling weeks of rejection and heartbreak, 28 days of watching her savings dwindle and her dreams crumble, a chance encounter changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 month since she'd left her grandmother's tearful embrace, when fate finally smiled upon her. She was walking through the market, on her way to another failed job lead. Angela saw a frail old woman collapse on the sidewalk. Shoppers and traders stepped around her, too busy to notice or too hardened to care. Without thinking, Angela rushed forward, knelt beside the woman, and gave her the last of her bottled water. She stayed with her, fanning her gently, whispering words of comfort until the woman's breathing steadied. Angela didn't realize that a young, well-dressed man had stopped to watch. Later that day, after another round of humiliations, Angela heard about a job interview for cleaners at a grand hotel, Sunrise Towers. She joined a crowd of desperate applicants, most of them city women in crisp blouses. Angela's hands shook as she waited her turn, feeling her patched dress and faded slippers. When her name was called, the manager looked her up and down, then tried to touch her inappropriately under the pretense of checking for tidiness. Angela jerked away, her voice trembling but clear. "I came here to work, not to be insulted." For a moment, she thought she had destroyed her only chance, but just then, The same elderly woman from the market appeared, leaning on the arm of a sharply dressed man, the one who had watched Angela earlier. The woman recognized Angela and spoke on her behalf, telling the story of her kindness and honesty. The young man, Dominic Arinzi, the hotel's CEO, listened quietly, then told the manager to hire Angela on the spot. He said, "People who have nothing but still help others are the kind we need here." The manager frowned, the other staff grumbled, but Angela was given a uniform and a mop. Her heart beat with relief and disbelief. For the first time she felt seen, not as a curse, but as someone worthy. But a new world of challenges awaited her inside the hotel. Angela quickly discovered that kindness from strangers could not shield her from the suspicion and scorn of her new co-workers. The other cleaners whispered and laughed behind her back. They called her Bush Girl, made her scrub the dirtiest corners, and hid her bucket so she would get in trouble. Her supervisor, Mrs. Obioma, watched her closely, always waiting for a mistake. From the moment Angela was introduced as the new cleaner, Mrs. Obioma's eyes rarely left her. There was more than just the usual strictness in her gaze. There was bitterness and deep resentment. Years earlier, Mrs. Obioma had applied for promotion to supervisor at the hotel, but had nearly been passed over because the management wanted someone with fresh ideas and a strong work ethic. She suspected Angela had gotten the job by using her body to seduce Dominic, and the staff's whispers grew. Maybe this village girl will take her place next by sleeping her way to the top. To Mrs. Obioma, every small mistake Angela made was a threat, a reminder of her own insecurities and fear of losing power. Watching Angela try, fail, and get up again stirred anger she didn't fully understand. "I've suffered to get here," she often muttered under her breath. "No little village girl will take what I worked for by spreading her legs." Her hatred was rooted in fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of being forgotten, and the old wounds of humiliation she tried to hide. Each day, that fear made her cruelty toward Angela sharper and her punishments more personal. Sometimes Angela found her tips missing from her locker, or her uniform splashed with dirty water as a cruel joke. Still, Angela did not complain. She sent money home, called Caroline for updates, and told Mama Obi she was doing fine. Alone in her tiny staff dorm, Angela sometimes hugged her pillow and wept quietly, missing her grandmother's voice and Caroline's laughter. But each morning, she got up before the others, washed her face and whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning. I will not give up." Even as the city tried to grind her down, Angela's spirit held firm. With each new hardship, she reminded herself of the promise made at her mother's grave, the vow not to let poverty and shame define her life. She clung to that hope as her anchor, believing that somehow her story would not end in defeat. Angela's life in the hotel soon settled into a rhythm of hard work, small victories, and silent endurance. Each morning she rose before dawn to clean the quiet halls and polish the shining floors, careful to avoid the laughter and gossip of the other cleaners. The sting of their words still echoed in her heart. Bush girl, village cleaner, charity case. But Angela tried not to let them break her spirit. She focused on her goal: save every naira, keep her job, and make Mama Obi proud. Some evenings, as she scrubbed toilets or mopped the kitchen floors, Angela found herself thinking about Caroline. Their childhood laughter in the village felt far away now. Sometimes Angela longed for her friend's voice, even if just for one moment of kindness after another hard day. But she knew Caroline was struggling too, somewhere back home, holding her promise to care for Mama Obi. Then, one hot-seating afternoon, everything changed. Caroline arrived in Lagos, thin and tired, with a faded travel bag and hopeful eyes. She came to the hotel using Angela's hostel address as her reference. The reunion was joyful at first, tears and laughter and tight hugs in the staff dormitory. "You made it, Caro," Angela said, unable to hide her relief. Caroline smiled, but her eyes darted nervously. She explained her family's poverty had grown worse, her aunt could no longer keep her, and the city was her only hope. Through Angela's connection, Caroline quickly found a job at the hotel as a kitchen assistant. The first days were happy ones. They cooked, shared stories, and even laughed together like old times. But soon, the other staff noticed Caroline's arrival and whispered about her friendship with the CEO's favorite. Some began to gossip that Angela's luck was only because of her relationship with Dominic Arinze. Caroline's transformation from friend to enemy didn't happen overnight. It was a slow poison that ate away at her soul, drop by bitter drop. Each night, she lay on her narrow cot in the staff quarters, listening to her empty stomach growl like a wounded animal. The thin walls couldn't muffle the sound of Angela's gentle breathing in the next room, and Caroline found herself counting each peaceful exhale with growing resentment. "Why her?" Caroline would whisper into her pillow, tears of rage and shame soaking the rough fabric. "Why does she get to sleep peacefully while I lie here dying inside?" The breaking point came in cruel, small moments. When Caroline watched Angela receive a respectful nod from Dominic in the hallway, her chest burned with acid jealousy. When she saw Angela's clean uniform hanging beside her own stained, torn one, her hands shook with suppressed fury. When letters arrived from her village, her little sister begging for school fees, her sick cousin needing medicine, Caroline felt like she was drowning in everyone else's needs, while Angela seemed to float effortlessly above the water. "She has everything," Caroline whispered to herself one night, staring at the ceiling as rain pounded the roof. "The CEO's favor, respect, hope for the future. And what do I have? Nothing. I'm still the same desperate girl who left the village with empty pockets and emptier promises." The cruelest moment came when Caroline overheard two kitchen staff laughing. "Look at that Caroline," one sneered, "still scrubbing pots like a slave while her village sister gets promoted. Some people are just born lucky, eh?" Caroline's world tilted. She ran to the bathroom and sobbed until her throat was raw, her reflection showing a stranger, hollow-eyed, bitter, consumed by a jealousy that felt like swallowing glass. She thought of her mother's grave, of the sacred promise she'd made to protect Angela like family, and the memory now felt like a knife twisting in her chest. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered to her broken reflection. "I can't watch her rise while I fall deeper into nothing. My family is starving while hers gets saved. Where is my miracle? Where is my hope?" That night, Mrs. Obioma found Caroline crying in the supply closet, her heart shattered by months of watching her childhood friend succeed while she failed. "Still watching your sister climb while you remain down here with us?" Mrs. Obioma taunted, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You know, child, there are ways to level the ground." Caroline looked up with desperate red-rimmed eyes. "I'm drowning, Auntie. Every day I watch her move forward while I sink deeper. My family thinks I'm worthless. Here I'm invisible, but she shines like she was born for this life." "What if I told you," Mrs. Obioma whispered, kneeling beside the broken girl, "that you could take what should have been yours all along? What if that bracelet she wears, that respect she receives, what if it all belonged to you instead?" Caroline's hands trembled as she wiped her tears. The weight of her poverty, her desperation, her consuming envy crashed down on her like a collapsing building. She thought of her promise at her mother's grave, but hunger and shame had twisted that love into something unrecognizable. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered to the darkness, her voice breaking with the weight of betrayal she was about to commit. "But I have to survive too, even if it means destroying the only person who ever truly loved me." Slowly, their friendship changed. Caroline spent more time with the others, listening to their gossip and complaints. Angela noticed Caroline's eyes growing hard, her laughter sharper. At night, their talks grew tense. Caroline would ask, "Why does the CEO greet you in the hall?" Angela always answered truthfully, "I help someone, that's all." But the old trust was fading, replaced by suspicion and envy. Angela tried to focus on her duties. She called home less often, worried about the cost. Every naira counted, but she was proud to send money for Mama Obi's medicine, even as she ate less to make it last. In her small dorm, she prayed every night, "God, let me keep this job, let me help Mama, don't let them drive me away." As the months went by, the pressure inside the hotel grew. Mrs. Obioma, the supervisor, seemed to have a special dislike for Angela. She often assigned her the dirtiest jobs, scrubbing kitchen grease, cleaning out blocked drains, collecting garbage. If Angela complained, the older woman would say, "If you cannot do simple work, pack your load and go back to your village." Angela endured it all, but not without cost. Each cruel joke, each stolen tip, each splash of dirty water chipped away at her spirit, but also forged something harder inside her. When Mrs. Obioma assigned her the dirtiest toilets, Angela scrubbed them until they gleamed, whispering fiercely to herself, "You cannot break me. I will not let you break me." When the other cleaners hid her cleaning supplies, Angela searched until she found them, her hands shaking with suppressed anger. She wanted to scream, to fight back, to demand respect. Instead, she channeled that rage into determination. "Mama Obi didn't raise me to be anyone's victim," she told herself, gripping her mop handle like a weapon against despair. Some nights, alone in her tiny room, Angela would allow herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. Deep, silent sobs that shook her whole body. Then she would wash her face, stand before her cracked mirror, and speak to her reflection. "Tomorrow, you will be stronger. Tomorrow, you will survive another day. You are more than what they say you are." When Caroline stopped speaking to her, Angela felt the betrayal like a physical wound. But she refused to beg for friendship that had to be earned through humiliation. "If this is who you choose to be," she whispered to Caroline's turned back, "then I choose to be better." 2 months later, exactly 2 months after Caroline's arrival had shattered Angela's fragile peace, during a hotel staff end-of-month party that would haunt Angela's dreams forever. Caroline's jealousy reached a breaking point. She watched Angela moving through the crowd, still respected despite everything, still holding her head high. The sight burned in Caroline's chest like acid. She remembered her promise at her mother's grave to protect Angela like family, and the memory now felt like a knife twisting in her heart. "She has everything," Caroline whispered to herself, her hands trembling with rage. "The CEO's favor, a better job, while I scrub pots in the kitchen like a slave." Mrs. Obioma, noticing Caroline's distress, approached with a cruel smile. "Still watching your sister climb while you remain down here with us?" she taunted. "You know there are ways to level the ground." Caroline's eyes filled with desperate tears. "I can't keep living like this, Auntie. Every day I watch her rise while I fall further behind. My family back home is starving, and here I am, washing dishes while she gets promoted." Mrs. Obioma leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "What if I told you there was a way to make her fall? To show everyone what she really is? A village girl who uses her body to climb the ladder." "What do you mean?" Caroline asked, though her heart was already racing with terrible anticipation. "The CEO has been protecting her, yes? What if he was found in a compromising position with her? What would people think then? What would his mother think? His business partners?" Mrs. Obioma's eyes glittered with malice. "Sometimes to save ourselves, we must sacrifice others." Caroline's hands shook as she held her drink. The weight of her poverty, her desperation, her jealousy, it all crashed down on her at once. She thought of her sick aunt back home, of the empty promises of city life, of how Angela seemed to have God's favor while she had nothing. But how? Mrs. Obioma produced a small packet from her purse. "This will make her relaxed, compliant. We'll tell her the CEO needs urgent cleaning in his suite. In her state, anything could happen. When people find them together, who will believe it was innocent? Her reputation will be destroyed, and she'll be forced to leave in shame." Caroline stared at the packet, her whole body trembling. Every fiber of her being screamed that this was wrong, evil, a betrayal of everything sacred between friends. She remembered Angela's tears when they were children, remembered holding her hand through hunger and loss, remembered the night they'd promised to always protect each other. But then she thought of her empty stomach, her torn shoes, the laughter of the kitchen staff who called her Caroline the failure. She thought of Angela's clean uniform, her respected position, the way Dominic nodded to her in the hallways. The jealousy was like a living thing inside her, eating away at her conscience. She won't be hurt, will she?" Caroline whispered, her voice breaking. "Of course not," Mrs. Obioma lied smoothly. "Just embarrassed, just brought down to where she belongs with the rest of us." With tears streaming down her face, Caroline took the packet. Her hands shook so violently she could barely hold it. "God forgive me," she whispered, knowing she was about to destroy the only real friendship she'd ever known. Meanwhile, across the party, Angela sat quietly in a corner, sipping her malt drink and watching the celebration with tired eyes. She felt isolated from the laughter and music, her heart heavy with loneliness. She missed home desperately, missed Mama Obi's gentle voice, missed the familiar sounds of the village, missed feeling like she belonged somewhere. Caroline approached, her face a mask of forced cheerfulness. "Angela, why are you sitting alone? Come, let's enjoy the party together like old times." Angela looked up, surprised by the warmth in Caroline's voice. For a moment, hope flickered in her chest. "Caro, are we okay again?" Caroline's heart shattered at the innocent hope in Angela's eyes. For a moment, she almost threw the packet away, almost confessed everything. But then she thought of her empty bank account, her aunt's disappointed letters, the way the other staff laughed at her behind her back. "Of course we're okay," Caroline said, her voice hollow. "Here, let me get you a fresh drink. You look tired." When Caroline returned with the spiked drink, her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Angela, starved for any sign of friendship, accepted it gratefully. "Thank you, Caro. I've missed talking with you." Caroline watched Angela drink, each sip like a nail in the coffin of their friendship. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she wiped them away quickly. "I've missed you too," she whispered, and meant it with all her breaking heart. But Caroline and Mrs. Obioma weren't the only ones with evil intentions that night. Across the room, Marcus, a rival manager who'd been plotting against Dominic for months, saw an opportunity. He'd been waiting for a chance to catch the CEO in a scandal, something that would force the board to remove him. When he overheard Mrs. Obioma's plan, he decided to add his own twist. Marcus slipped his own drugs into Dominic's wine, stronger substances that would leave him completely vulnerable. His plan was to photograph Dominic in a compromising position and use it for blackmail. He didn't care about Angela. She was just a convenient pawn in his scheme to destroy Dominic's career. As the party wound down, Angela began to feel strange. The room swayed around her, and her thoughts became foggy and confused. She tried to stand but stumbled, her vision blurring. "Caro," she called weakly, reaching out for her friend. Caroline, watching Angela's distress, felt a wave of panic and guilt so intense she thought she might vomit. "What have I done?" she whispered to herself. "Oh God, what have I done?" Mrs. Obioma, cold and calculating, took charge. "Angela, dear, you look unwell. The CEO asked for urgent cleaning in his executive suite. Perhaps you should go there and rest while you work." Angela, in her drugged state, couldn't think clearly. She nodded slowly, trusting the woman who had authority over her. As she stumbled toward the elevators, Caroline wanted to run after her, to confess, to stop what was happening. But Mrs. Obioma grabbed her arm firmly. "It's too late now," Mrs. Obioma hissed. "If you try to stop this, I'll tell everyone you were involved. You'll lose everything." Caroline collapsed into a chair, sobbing silently as she watched her best friend disappear into the elevator. She had betrayed the person who loved her most in the world, and there was no taking it back. In his office, Dominic was also struggling. The drugs Marcus had given him were stronger, more dangerous. He felt dizzy, confused, unable to think straight. When Angela stumbled into his office, both of them were barely conscious, both victims of other people's evil schemes. In their drugged haze, confused and vulnerable, they found comfort in each other's presence. Neither was truly aware of what was happening. Neither could consent or resist. They were two broken souls, manipulated by those who wanted to destroy them, seeking warmth in a cold, cruel world. The next morning, Angela woke first, her eyes heavy with sleep and confusion. Something felt different, wrong somehow, but her mind was still foggy from whatever had happened the night before. As her vision cleared, she realized she was not in her own small room. Panic started to rise in her chest as she noticed she was in an unfamiliar, luxurious office. She turned slightly and gasped. There was someone else there. Through her blurred vision, she could make out a figure nearby, and as her sight focused, she realized it was Dominic, the CEO, still asleep. Angela's heart pounded as fragmented memories tried to surface. The party, feeling dizzy, Caroline giving her a drink, Mrs. Obioma directing her somewhere. But everything was hazy, like trying to remember a dream. As she carefully tried to sit up without waking him, the movement caused her silver bracelet, her grandmother's precious gift, to catch the morning light streaming through the window. The gentle clinking sound stirred Dominic slightly. Dominic's eyes opened just enough to notice the distinctive silver bracelet with blue beads on a woman's wrist, traditional Nigerian design that glinted in the morning light. But his vision was still blurred from sleep and whatever had affected him the night before. He couldn't make out the woman's face, only caught a glimpse of that bracelet, before his heavy eyelids closed again and he drifted back to sleep. Angela, realizing he had stirred, quickly pulled her sleeve down to cover the bracelet. Her face burned with shame and confusion as she quietly gathered herself and slipped out of the office, her heart racing with fear and uncertainty. She hurried through the empty hotel corridors, adjusting her clothes and trying to make herself presentable, terror gripping her chest. What had happened? How had she ended up there? And most frightening of all, what would happen to her now? Angela spent the rest of the morning in her small room, trembling with fear and shame, knowing she had been with the CEO, but having no clear memory of how or why. The weight of the unknown pressed down on her like a heavy stone. What neither Angela nor Dominic knew was that Marcus had succeeded in his sinister plan. In the early hours of the morning, while they lay unconscious and vulnerable, he had quietly entered the suite with his camera. The photos he took were explicit, damaging, and perfect for his blackmail scheme. We hope you enjoyed this African tale. If you'd like to see the next part of this story, please subscribe to our channel and continue below. Your love keeps us motivated to bring you more great African stories every 3 days. We really appreciate your love and thanks for being part of our community. It means a lot to us.